So I guess now I can kind of move over to the Retro Horror Academy segment, if you will. So what the show basically was, like I mentioned earlier, I go through year by year, break down what happened that year in horror, and then go ahead and rank the movies, and then usually the top three, well, not usually, every time, the top three films would get the awards, the Bronze Skull, the Silver Skull, and the Golden Skull. And, that was kind of the whole gimmick behind it. Funny thing was, I didn't actually have physical trophies for these movies until the end of the season. And back in November, because I bought these skulls, these ceramic skulls from Dollar Tree, and then I bought these little wooden bases from Joann Fabrics, or Walmart, I can't remember, bought them from somewhere. But anyways, excuse me, I bought these and then painted them up, gold, silver, bronze. And then they were going to be like the physical trophies. I was going to hold them up like, yeah, the winner of the Bronze Skull is this film. And then, like I said, we cut it out, and now we're just doing this via podcast with no picture. So, yeah, I got these this gold and silver and bronze skull that I guess I'll just display randomly in the house. I don't know, I'll probably find a use for them later down the road. But anyway, I thought that's kind of funny. So let's get into. And I do urge anybody who wants to know more about these early horror movies, check out my Retro Horror Academy playlist on the YouTube channel. Yes, or wherever you're listening. If you don't know, all of our social media links are on Anchor, and then if you're watching this on YouTube or listening to this on YouTube, you can just go to our page. But I covered 20 something 20 plus years, 24 years of horror there, and like I said, I feel like a lot of people should know about these movies. I'm not saying they're great. I'm just saying that these were the foundation on which horror was built on. So I really think that give them a check them out, at least inform yourself about them. You may find something you like. You never know. I was surprised to find some movies here that I really do genuinely like. Like, I will end up going out and buying them because I actually like these films. You don't have to buy these either. A lot of these are public domain right now, or all of them are public domain right now. So you can find these usually on YouTube or the Internet Archive, I think is what it is. This is where they have a lot of public domain music, videos, movies, stuff like that. Anyways, you can find this shit anywhere. But I wouldn't mind. They did Dante's Inferno, and I would love to get that from 1911. Apparently, Tangerine Dream did an entire new score for it, and I'm just like, you know what? Yeah, that's something I would literally invest some money into. So, So let's get to 1920. At this point now, this is the era of German expressionism, and anybody who's ever seen a Tim Burton movie, you know what German expressionism and that gothic look is. Lots of points, lots of doorways that aren't perfect rectangles. The windows, they're not squares, they're rhombuses. You got roads that just kind of from a perspective, a road will always, the side of the road will always kind of slant inwards. You get this little narrow thing, but in these German expression, films, it's like you're already in the narrow part of the road. It's Gotham City. It's fucking Gotham City from Tim Burton's 1989 Batman. That's exactly what it is. So, anyways, that was kind of the big thing that kind of broke out this year, and it would get a lot of these German filmmakers noticed, and they would get called into Hollywood, and their careers would just kind of explode there. The biggies that they always talk about. From this era, from this year especially, is the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari and the Golem. Rewind here. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. That's probably the big one. That's the biggest example, and probably the most best use of it. There really is no other film that really will compare as far as look and style of the German expressionism than this one. And this thing came out, and it's weird because when I looked it up, it was just such conflicting things. Some sources were like, this thing was a huge hit right out the gate, and then others were like, no, it wasn't that big at all. It caught on later on, it would catch fire, kind of become the first cult film, which I think one of the critics, newer critics in a retrospective said it was the first cult film, and it's just but was it though? If it was a big international hit right out the gate, I don't know. So, anyways, the Golem's another one that, had that kind of look and feel and vibe to it. The Golem is actually the only version of the Golem trilogy or full version that's out. The first movie, Der Golem, it's lost. I don't know, the film's damaged. It, is considered lost of time. That's a lot of what I'm coming across when I'm looking at these early films. I'm hearing about like all these great films, but they're all lost, So it's just one of those tragic things. The sequel, The Golem and the Dancing Girl, it too is mostly lost. I think there's like a reel left, and you can find it online. But yeah, the Golem's the only one that really survived. And then I believe the full title is like The Golem and How He Came to Be. So these were the two big heavy hitters coming out this year. But actually, we got several films to actually look at. This is actually the biggest episode, or would have been the biggest episode, of the Retro Horror Academy. So here it is. We got 6 films that we're going to rank. And I'll start with number 6. The number 6 film is a film called The Penalty. This is Lon Chaney. And actually, I think this is like his first big film. This is his breakout film. And little horror film, or not even a horror film, sorry. That's why it's ranked number 6. I want to express that right now. How I get these nominations, these lists, is first I'll go on Wikipedia, and they just got like, breakdown year by year, a list of all the horror films that came out that year, or if they consider a horror film. So then I go to, I cross-reference that with IMDb, because I'm a big fucking nerd when it came to this channel, or this concept. And I make sure that they actually have 2 things. One, the horror genre listed for it. Because a lot of times you'll go over there and it doesn't say it's a horror film. And I'm like, well, you know what? If you can't, cross both these things off your list, you're not going to be put in there. And so it must have horror as its genre listing on IMDb. And then secondly, I look at the release date. It has to have like, a complete release date, because a lot of times you'll find that these, shorts were just kind of like cobbled together and no one knows, like, when it came out, I'm like, that don't seem fair. Like I want an actual track. I want a trace. I want, a record of like, when this film came out, what country it came out in, all that stuff. And sometimes you find it and sometimes you don't. And I'm just like, to me, it doesn't feel like a real release then if no one knows when it came out. The funny thing is, and it may be, you may be asking yourself like, well, come on, Daniel, that seems a little unfair. Long time ago, records get destroyed, whatever, but it's like the very first horror film, it has a release date. There are, reviews of it. There's, a record of this film. So it's just like, no, if the first one can pull it off, the rest of them should be able to follow suit. So that's kind of my whole thing. And then, like I said, as long as it was released that year, I put it on the list and we move on. The other bad thing is I have to be able to watch this film too. And a lot of these films are lost. So can't get a copy of it, then you can't get in the thing. The funny thing about that is the Golem, I had to take both of them out, because the first 2, because there just wasn't a full version of it anywhere online at all. And so it's just like, unfortunately, these were considered great films when they came out, but they have fallen by the wayside. So anyways, The Penalty, getting back on track, it's about this guy who's a double amputee who rises through the ranks. He's a criminal mastermind in San Francisco. And he's, about to bring his, master plan, how he's going to loot and rob San Francisco blind, while also getting revenge on the doctor who amputated his legs. So, the first thing I got to tell you about this film is, like I said, Lon Chaney's in it. It's his first major film. Lon Chaney, who is a master of makeup, horror makeup, that's what he's known for. And even though this ain't a horror film per se, even though it has the IMDb listing as horror, when you watch it, it's not really a horror film. It's more of a crime drama. But to achieve this double amputation thing, he custom made like these buckets with like a little thing cut out of them. And he literally, like, he put his knees, like he sank down into it. But like he bent his legs, his bottom part of his legs, back, and then strapped him in a harness. So like he was bent like a fucking, convertible sofa, like literally his legs are folded up, straight up his back and attached to him. And he was lowered into these buckets. And then they put these pants on him so you can't even tell. And they got, sorry. Sorry, just COVID. We're fine. Anyways, he's got, his legs up to his back. They're got a harness. He has a big overcoat. He's always wearing an overcoat, so that helps hide it. But when you actually see him moving around on set, it's fucking amazing. Like, it really is. I'm just like, I'm blown away by how awesome this effect looks. Like, for 1920, you can't even see. You can't tell. You just can't tell. And thing is, though, it was so hard for him to keep doing that he could only film for like 14 minutes at a time. And then they had to cut and then get him out of there, and he'd have to go rest up. And then he'd come back, get back in it, and shoot for another 14 minutes. And you could only do it in short bursts like that. And it's like, god damn, like, talk about being just a master of your craft and taking it so professionally. I don't know. That to me just blows me away. So when I watch this film, it's probably my favorite film from this 6, but I only rank it, the Academy only ranks it low because it's really not a horror film. And I just kind of feel like, I know we're maybe splitting hairs when it comes to these later ones. I don't know, but to me, it just, I don't know. It is what it is. So anyways, that's, it has this incredible makeup job. He looks great. Although it's funny that, so how the movie starts off is a doctor makes a mistake. He was trying to, I forget, the kid had some kind of illness and he thought he had to amputate the legs. And so he ends up amputating both of them. And then another doctor shows up and is like, what the hell did you do? You weren't supposed to amputate the legs. But the other doctor kind of covers for the doctor because he's young and he's like, you got a bright future ahead of you. And so he's like, I'll clarify that yes, you were supposed to amputate, so it's okay. But the kid overhears it. So the kid grows up, and of course, as he tries to tell him, like, I overheard him, they chopped my legs off for no reason. The doctors kind of work together and are like, oh no, it's the anesthetic. He's hallucinating and he hurt us, And so this kid grows up just hate-filled. And he turns into Lon Chaney and becomes a criminal mastermind. The problem is, he's like, when we get to that, when we jump ahead, to where we're at now, he's already the boss. He's already like this criminal mastermind. I was like, to me, the better movie would have been seeing his rise to the top. I would have loved to see this, double amputee guy where everybody is, and they're too afraid to even make fun of him in an un-PC time like the 20s. Nobody called him a cripple. Like, they would say it behind his back, but they were even afraid to do that because, like, what if he overheard it? He would straight up murder you. And I'm like, I want to see the viciousness of this guy, right? His rise to the top, but they really kind of yada over that. I don't know. The movie's great, though. I was really surprised how much I liked it. While he's, getting his, crew together, and he's got this ridiculous plan to have everybody kind of like rob these banks at the exact same time and loot at the exact same time. Like, he's got his own little like underground army built up. He also ends up hooking up with this, or didn't hook up with her, sorry. There's a young girl that turns out to be the daughter of the doctor who amputated on him, right? So he ends up getting a job being her model, and he's modeling for her, and she's a sculptor, and she's making it's like the only horror tie-in, I guess, was she's making a sculpture of the devil, and she's using him as a template. And anyways, so his plan is to get close to her and then, kill her off as his revenge to the doctor. Really solid movie. When this thing came out, it was a huge hit. I forget the name of the director, and I apologize for that. When I did the show, I had all these notes written out. Doing this like this, I'm just kind of breezing through it. But, like, these guys are going to work together like another, like, I don't know, a few more times. And I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, and forgive me if I am, I think they would eventually do The Hunchback of Notre Dame together, if I'm not mistaken. The other interesting footnote here is the producer of this film was Samuel Goldwyn, who is, yes, that Goldwyn in MGM, Mayor Goldwyn Mayer. Yeah, he was that guy. So it's funny that he did this film and then would go on to make MGM and all that. So I don't know, I just thought that was kind of interesting as well. So anyways, yes, the penalty, it's number 6. But if I'm being 100% honest, yeah, it's number 1 in my book. Like, seriously. This film has a 7.4 on IMDb, and it does have an 83% on Rotten Tomatoes. I had these little notes written down, so I guess I'm full of shit when I said I was just going to, wing this. But yeah, so anyways, the penalty. So at number 5 is a film called Anita. It's Russian, and it's about this young girl who basically goes to this hypnotist who's not very good. Like, it's a stage show, and he's just kind of a bumbling idiot, but he puts her under, and bad things happen. This movie was dreadful to get through. It was really boring. Even the critics at the time said this was garbage. This film would get remade a few years later, and it would become a hit. So, we'll go more into that maybe down the road. But yeah, this film was just dreadful, but, had more of a horror vibe than, The Penalty. So it's number 5. It currently has a 3.3 on Rotten Tomatoes, if that tells you anything. So, or not Rotten Tomatoes, sorry, a 3.3 on IMDb. So that brings us now to The Golem, and that's number 4, which people may be shocked that this is my number 4 and not higher on the list. And it's not a bad film. I'll tell you right now, these films from here on out, they're not bad. It's just, I don't know, they hit me in different ways. And I was so pumped to finally watch The Golem, because after hearing how great the first 2 were, and they were kind of erased from history, I was like, all right, The Golem. And I don't know, it's okay. I mean, I'm sure for its time it was fan-fucking-tastic, but watching it today, you're just kind of like, it is what it is. The basic premise of The Golem is, this rabbi, so you got this, like, in this ghetto, and they don't explain, I don't know who is the ones outside of it. I guess this is a German film, so I'm guessing, like, the Ottoman Empire, or maybe it is Germany now. I'm sorry, I'm not great on my history. It wasn't one of my strong suits, sorry. But anyways, the Jewish people, living there, they're being persecuted, and it's getting to the point where, like, the Germans, I'm going to say the Germans, I may be completely, it probably isn't even the German, because this is supposed to take place even further back. So the Empire, we'll just say the Empire, like it's fucking Star Wars or something. The Empire is going to come down and basically move all these Jews out of the ghetto and just kind of be like, hey, fuck off and go find your own area. And so there's all this tension and a lot of fear in these neighborhoods. And so the best way to describe him, I guess he's like a magician, the mad scientist with magic. He creates this figure out of clay, the Golem, and he creates him to protect him against the Empire, or not just protect him, but protect his community. So that's the basic premise of this thing. So the funny thing about this is Paul Wagner, who he did the first Golem, couple Golems. He did another film too. I'm blanking on the name of it, but he's a big time director at this point in history, and he's turned out good stuff. And so the thing is, though, the first movie he did, The Golem, it was more in vein of being a horror film, but they made him kind of water it down. They took a lot of stuff he wanted to do. They're just like, oh no, you can't do that. The articles I was reading didn't really specify what they made him cut down on, but either way, it was never the version of The Golem he wanted to do. But nonetheless, it became a huge hit, and so they did a sequel, The Golem and the Dancing Girl. They brought him back to direct it. Of course, he did it, but again, they didn't want him to do his vision. In fact, the Golem and the Dancing Girl is more of a horror comedy. I mean, I guess more comedy. I don't know if they even had the phrase horror comedy back then, but I guess the fact that it's a monster and this little girl dancing, I don't know. And once again, I don't know what the movie's about at all. I just know that it was a hit when it came out. But again, it took away all the horror. I'm going to take a quick drink. So, more of a comedy. So, when it came time to do this third film, apparently he had enough stroke to be like, you know what, fuck off. This is my movie, and we're taking it back to its roots. So it's meant to be a prequel to the first film, but a lot of people say it's more or less just the remake. And at this point, since the other two films don't exist, it really is just its own standalone story. But he did, I guess he included it, make it more darker, and there are, there's a couple kills in this thing, so it's like, it is what it is, I guess, it does classify as a horror film. It's very much what we'll see later on with Frankenstein. The Golem, he's a misunderstood creature who comes. And the thing is, like, they unleash it accidentally because you're supposed to, if you don't shut him down. So it sounds weird to say it like that because he's made out of clay and words, but still, if you don't shut him down during like some kind of lunar cycle or something like that, he can go on a rampage and nothing can stop him, right? Well, they say nothing can stop him. Something does stop him, but, we'll get to that later. But anyways, the magician's about to do this, because shortly before, the Jews were going to be exiled from their village, the empire came down and they invited, the magician to like a festival they were doing, and he puts on a magic show for them, and they love it, and they're just like, okay, you Jews are okay, we won't kick you out. So instead of just running home immediately and shutting the golem down, he just kind of procrastinates and then forgets to do it, and then the golem goes crazy and goes on a kill spree. Throws one guy off a fucking building, which is batshit crazy. So anyways, this film, beloved by everybody, is a 7.2 on IMDb, and it has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, certified fucking fresh. So when it came out, huge, massive hit as well. But just for me, like I said, I don't know, and maybe because again, it's just the way the story's told. But a lot of stuff you're just like, really, just do this or say the words now, or it's funny because spoiler alert, how he gets stopped in the end is he's got a little the Star of David thing in his chest. And it's the amulet that has the word that was spoken into it. And like the little girl, he goes to these kids, and it never really does say if he's going to hurt the kids or not. Like I feel like he is almost like Frankenstein's monster, and he probably wouldn't have, purposely hurt the kids. I'm not saying it wouldn't have happened, but maybe it wouldn't have been, completely out of anger, more of an accidental thing. But when he picks the girl up, the girl just grabs that star right out of him, and he just tumbles down, and that's the end of the movie. And then like the villagers show up, like, oh shit, thank God. Yep, saved the day. And that's what it was. Like, the magician kind of gets credit for it because he said a massive prayer right before that. And then when they find it, they're like, oh, wait, your words worked. And he's like, yep, yes, they did. And that's the end of the movie. Oh, it's ridiculous. But nonetheless, it's number 4. So we're going to get into the top 3 right now. And in fact, in the top 3, the bronze skull will go to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. In fact, this isn't even the only Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde to come out. I just didn't count the other one because I couldn't find a clear release date on it. But apparently 2 of them came out the same year. And if you've been listening to the Retro Horror Academy, this movie's already been made like 4 or 5 times already. Several times. A couple has been lost already to history. But we've already had 2 of them, I believe, on this show already. Or in this segment already. So here it is. This one gets the bronze. We all know the story by now. Dr. Jekyll. In this version, he's purposely trying to make a formula that brings out your dark side. He believes every man has a dark side to him, and he wants to prove it. And of course, when he brings his out, it's, Mr. Hyde. And of course, he's a murderer. This one, I don't know. I really liked, I forget, the one that had King Baggot in it. I can't remember which year that was, but I like that one. But I don't know, this may be my favorite Jekyll and Hyde from the silent era, anyways, of the bunch. It has John Barrymore, grandfather of Drew Barrymore, as the title character. And I don't know, in this one when it came out, it had mixed review, or kind of a mixed reaction, but a lot of people really praised his work. Like, they all praised like John Barrymore as the character. The story itself was kind of hit or miss, they said, but they really liked John Barrymore as, Mr. Hyde. Or I guess Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. But anyways, this, like I said, I don't really know what to say about this one because I kind of already said everything about the other ones. I kind of agree. I think his performance kind of make this a step above the others. But, it's the same basic, thing. He, takes the elixir, starts, wigging out, attacking others, trying to kill others, and then, eventually they all come to him, and he ends up taking his own life, and that's the end of that, and there it is, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Boom. Number 3, easily. This thing had a 7.0 on IMDb and a 92% on Rotten Tomatoes. That don't sound very mixed at all, actually. That sounds like it's pretty high up there. So, either way, there you have it. That was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So, the number 2 film of 1920, or number 2 horror film of 1920, winner of the Silver Skull Award, movie called Genuine. This movie was the film that basically, I'm blanking on the guy's name, Werner Krauss, is that his name? Krauss? The director of The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Well, he did this film as well. Genuine. And this, he did it afterwards, and it always gets kind of overshadowed. I'll be honest with you, as a member of the Academy, I struggled not making this number one. Because I like both films. I like Genuine. I like The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. And I don't know, when I watched this one, I kind of dug it more initially. But then, when I reflect back on it, I'm just kind of like, I don't know. I feel like The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari just kind of deserves the golden one, just more for its thing. I don't know. Maybe it's controversial. This film plays out a lot like The Student of Prague. Just this girl who kind of puts, she comes in, just everyone just falls for her. They all fall in love with her, and it leads to just the downfall of this family, the town kind of thing. But the look of the film, it's very, like I say, it's very much in that German expressionistic, thing. This movie isn't as well known, so it has a 6.0 on IMDb. Doesn't even have a Rotten Tomato, so it's like is what it is. I definitely recommend this though. I think you go out of your way. There are multiple versions, multiple runtimes, because whenever this thing did get released to a wider audience, because initially it was, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was considered lost for a while, and when they found it, they sent it out. But then different producers cut it, and so you got different run times. So there's if you're not in something that long, there's a short version on YouTube. I think the longer version's on the Internet Archive, if I'm not mistaken. Either way, Genuine, number 2, and of course that leaves number 1. Winner of the Golden Skull Award, the number 1 horror film in 1920, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Caligari is this hypnotist that goes, town to town with this, I don't know what, somnambulist, is that how you pronounce that? I don't know what the fuck that is. There's a dude in a coma that he can just say things and wake the guy up and make him do his bidding. And, of course, he makes him commit murders for him because Caligari is an evil guy. And Caesar's in a coma, so Caesar has to do what he says. So this is a film that I really dug when I watched it for the first time. A lot of people hate the ending, which is it was all a dream. This is all in the guy's head in a mental institution. I loved it. In fact, I loved it so much that years before I even watched this film, I did a story, wrote a script, never did do anything with it. But basically, at the very end of the thing, when all is bleak and you think our main characters are going to die, it just cuts to this mental institution, and you realize that everybody who died was actually just other patients, and then one of them was going to be a doctor or whatever. But you realize all these people are inside this mental institution, and I thought that was the most brilliant. You got to remember, I was like, I don't know, 18 or 19 when I came up with this. I thought it was the most brilliant twist in the history of cinema. Yeah, remember, I hadn't seen a whole lot at that time, but I thought it was brilliant. And then when I go back and look at it, and I was like, oh, this is brilliant. And then I watched this film like years later. Like, the movie the script was pretty much just shelled. I didn't, follow through with it. But when I watched this movie, I was like, oh shit, they stole my idea. And I'm like, oh shit, this thing came out like fucking years ago, like 80 plus years ago. God damn it, that I stole from them. So, but the thing is, like, everybody hates that ending, and I'm like, I don't know. I think the ending's fucking brilliant. That's what I loved about it. This one, like I said, it's very divisive. It's funny because when I'm reading everybody's like interviews and what people were saying about the film at the time, it's like it's all conflicting. Some people claim like that ending was tacked on because producers didn't like the idea that that the world would look this weird and out of it, and can't have that. Make it in the mind of a madman. And then some people were just like, no, the script said that was the ending all along. And it just seems like everything was just kind of contradictory. If you get a chance, look into this, check it out. The story. I'm running a little long right now. I just hit past the hour right now, so I'm gonna kind of wrap this up. But yeah, everybody just kind of has their own conflicting whatever about this movie. I enjoy it, but the problem I have with this, and the problem I have a lot of the early silent films though, and even the ones on this list that we just talked about today, with the exception of the penalty, they all, even if they run an hour, which some of them run longer than that, it just seems like there's a lot of filler. And it's I don't know. A lot of times I find myself bored about midway through until the action picks back up. And, Dr. Caligari is no exception there. But the look of the film's incredible. The storyline's awesome. And it's just, I don't know, it's really good. In fact, big, if you're a big Rob Zombie fan, I remember, I was a Rob Zombie fan before I saw this movie. So whenever I saw, his video for Living Dead Girl, and then I see this movie, I'm like, holy shit, that's where he got it from. Like, awesome. This movie has an 8.1 on IMDb and 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. This film made like, I don't know, like a little bit less than like $4,000, but that's a lot back then in like 1920 money. So I mean, it was a huge hit. It was a huge fucking hit. Still is to this day. I mean, people, this is like one of the go-tos when people get like public domain movies, or when you got to have something to play in the background on your film and you don't want to pay royalties. This is one of the go-tos. This, Night of the Living Dead, and Phantom of the Opera. You can't go wrong with any of those three. So, anyways, that's it. I'm gonna wrap up this first episode.